this time, could everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think I hit record.
At this time, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay, Chair Wrench.
Present.
Vice Chair Malecki. Lance present. Courtney Day excused. Commissioner Remington.
Here.
Commissioner Proborski is excused. Commissioner Stanley.
Here.
And Michelle Runty is excused. Kevin Schlater.
Here.
Marion X.
Here.
Bill Borchert.
Here.
Glenn Morrow.
Here. At this time, we would open the floor for any citizens looking to make a comment. We will close that period. We will move on to the approval of minutes from the meeting on June 12th.
So true.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. We will go to, I guess we'll look to go to new business. Letter A, options for 2023 tennis court repairs.
Is that for me?
Yep.
Awesome. You threw me off with the A.
Oh, sorry.
I've got slides with the options. So.
Okay. Yeah, you just find a memo in your packet. We've talked about trying to do something with the tennis courts this year, and pickleball courts. And so the idea was that when we put the budget together, we were just going to try to, as I've been telling people, Band-Aid them this year. Try to get something to all of them, Band-Aid them. When you actually lay out the budget as far as what that means, we don't have really enough room to coat them all. Put the nice coatings on them. So the idea was we would, do minor repairs as needed, eliminate the tripping hazards, resurface them. We put some striping on them just to stripe the asphalt, if you will. Let them get through the winter time. In next year's budget, we put coatings on the ones you would feel deemed necessary for the coatings. So if you look at option one, that's really what we're doing. It's really the Band-Aid approach. So option 1 and 1A, when you look through the memo, really, the difference is what you might do to Vernon Barg. So Vernon Barg is probably our nicest courts. Maybe it doesn't need a full rehab like the rest of them. So the thought is we would just really just try to address the crack ceiling option and try to get those, again, eliminate the tripping hazard, but not really redo the whole thing. So we would basically leave those two alone, except for the cracks, if you would try to work on the cracks. So that's really the difference between 1 and 1A is basically what you do to Vernon Barg. In addition, I'm going to hop to the end and talk about Jack Workman. It's been several times my staff has approached me and said, why are we doing something to Jack Workman? It's kind of isolated. There's no parking. It's in really bad shape. It's going to be really expensive to really fix right. I don't disagree with any of those arguments, but I felt like that was a decision here at the council, at the Parks Commission. A is it should we even have the discussion? Maybe we just take out the court. That might be better money spent in the long run if we just get rid of the court. Jack Workman. I imagine the immediate neighbors probably wouldn't want to see that, but outside the immediate neighbors, it probably doesn't serve a lot. So I'll throw that out there. That's the difference between 1 and 1A. And then option 2, my staff is really pushing to maybe, instead of trying to, if you will, Band-Aid all the parks, what if we went to, can you go to option 2? What if we just took all the money and we went to basically fix the Legend course? Basically, do it right. Leave the rest of them alone for this year. Again, do it and do it right. And then we could replace it with a couple different options. We could, so option 2A would basically be replace it as it is striped now. So basically, you'd be taking out tennis courts and putting back tennis courts. Option 2B is you could just take out the tennis courts and put back some really nice pickleball courts, and you could actually fit 10 courts in that space. And then option 2C, maybe a mixture. So we'd have to figure out some sort of a mixture and maybe 1 tennis and 6 pickleball, or 2 tennis courts and 2 pickleball. And, doesn't sound right. Or 3 tennis courts and 10 pickleball. Or we can maybe overstripe them on each other, but that would be the option. So in essence, we're asking you, are you still okay with just the, I want to call it the Band-Aid approach? When I say Band-Aid, it'll be a nice Band-Aid. Probably a good 10 years worth of wear and tear before you have to redo them. Or should you just really take all that effort and get it into I want to say a 20-plus year court at Legend? So that's kind of a summary of the options I present here in front of you. Dale or Kevin, want to add anything to that summary?
Well, we were the ones that suggested going with 2B. We believe that do it right. We're going to be great.
So,
I guess I'll speak first. Considering Jack Workman Park across the street from my house, and has looked poor condition for a while, I think I would say that it was worth waiting for a repair down the road. I would lean towards option C. Hopefully we can stop talking about pickleball at every meeting. Move on to some other issues in parks. My recommendation. But that's just.
I like that you have that perspective, because that was like, I have no about that. We had that on our tour, right? Was that the one that we went to on the tour?
No.
We toured it, I think,
2 years ago. The tennis court.
Oh, yeah, we did. I was thinking, can we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we
It was
did
last
last
year.
year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
I made a mistake last time. I
No,
was like,
it's-
really? Am I?
We've been there, I just don't
Right.
remember.
Yeah.
I don't know what year it was.
Right. So, and it's in poor shape. Do they
It's-
use it at all, or no?
No, not really.
No. Okay.
Is it closed?
Well, I thought it was closed.
Is it?
it's got some severe tripping here.
Was
Remember
it
when we-
used a lot before, though?
What's that?
There were a
Like,
couple
do
families.
we have like a genuine, like a feeling of like, of course we're not going to please all the people all the time, but it looked like when we went on the tour that thing was dormant. Like it wasn't being
Yeah,
used. There was
yeah.
grass growing up in it, and
It's not like it.
One time it was like,
but it's open now. Do people use it? No.
Currently no, but prior to really bad cracks, now it's mostly a dog park.
Used a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't easy to be done. I think it's great to.
So you're in favor of keeping it, but put it back on the Band-Aid list in the future.
Yeah, that's what I would kind of lean towards.
I think that investing in better, durable product, for the community, staggering it like that does make sense. Getting a better product and then being able to fund the other projects later on.
Could we go back and look at one?
As we talked about before, it's not proximity to the park, it's availability to the whole community, right? And as it stands right now, Parks and Recs, we all go to that one area for Parks and Recs, and it's most utilized, I would say, of all of our courts, except for Pleasant View is getting popular now.
Mm-hmm.
And Pleasant View is going to be useful, though, this year.
Yes, right? Voting,
Yeah, it's
your,
they shut it. I believe they shut it down today. They should continue to start shutting it down today.
That was regardless.
We have two options
So,
that would.
hang on a second. When that says Pleasant View, we call it Pleasant View East, so it's old court, and I say old, it's only like 7 years old, but it's bad shape. When they built it, they didn't do a very good job designing for the drainage, and water killed it.
I liked that option. Yes, as well. The one question, well, when I read the memo, so because I know previously we had voted on, doing the repairs, but then is it because they can't do all the work at once? It sounded like they wouldn't be able to handle all that.
It'll be tight. I mean, we would write the specs so that they would do that. All of it. It'd be pretty aggressive.
Would they, if whatever one they do, are they planning on starting it in October?
Yeah, we'd like to get it bid out so we could get going as quick as we could. So we're into July, so by the time you bid August, September, yeah, it's late September probably, mid to late September, early October. So in that scenario there, in option one, again, notice, so the Jack Workman, if you take that off the table, that could allow for some extra drills. Maybe you could even provide a couple of coatings. Take that 55 for Jack Workman and sit on coatings for a couple of those if you want to go one.
I think we've already seen the Band-Aid approach is really good working option. We had the stagnant water on the ports that's damaging lines. Got the cracks. That was from that coating that was on it, right?
Well, so when I say Band-Aid, basically they'd be a little bit of a mill off, but then they would be adding asphalt. They actually raise the surface. So we would hopefully fix some of that again. But when I say Band-Aid, it's a Band-Aid because they're not fixing some of the underlying problems with the drainage system. And if we were to do Legend, we would try to improve the drainage, those kind, get the water away from the curtain, those kinds of things. Get rid of the gaps under the fence, all those other things, maintenance issues.
Band-Aids would make you good for 10 years.
Yeah, I would say 10 years is probably 15 at the absolute most, but 10 plus or minus a few years. But I just felt like bring this in, however you tell us to do it, then that's how we proceed.
Would you like a motion from us?
Yeah, I'd like a motion one way or the other.
I'll make a motion to do option 2B.
Or not.
We have a second.
Second, that we go.
Favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
Now, if I could ask a follow-up question. We're talking about budgets for next year. So if we basically do this one this year. Next year, would you like to see us to focus on one or two more intense ones, or would you like to maybe try the Band-Aid approach next year?
Taking a look at it, so if Lions Legend on Barb's, that kind of takes away some larger heavily ones, I would probably look more towards a Band-Aid, a couple of smaller ones that aren't utilized.
Okay.
Only other one that I could one out on right now. Ken Wendell. That one we have been directing a lot of the rec department stuff too, but I don't know quality.
I just was playing part there.
Those are probably the best ones in here.
No, are you their tennis game there? So Brave
I would kind of program the ones that get most use, and some of the other ones, back work, ones that are one off that are more of like neighborhood parks. I think it'd be worth a conversation to not going to put a tennis court back there. What else would you put?
So if you take the 115 out from Lions Legend, you could basically do the, if you will, the Band-Aid and the coating all next year. Get the math right. At 115, you could fit all those coatings and
My kind of thoughts.
And then you could also not only afford that, but maybe a few other things, that maybe fences on a few that fences or something like
For Brennan Bar, if, you know, they're gonna do Lions Legend, will they make those back tennis courts then? So that, because you're taking away courts, will they make those courts? That one court
that. When you
back?
say they,
City.
it's
City.
you. It's you.
Oh, okay.
We decide.
I'm just saying, we voted to do the option 2B, then now there'll be those courts.
You'll have to be the one to answer the folks that come in asking for tennis courts. So when you say 2B and you're converting tennis to pickleball, folks that are pro tennis folks may have a discussion.
Yeah. I don't know how to say it, but I would think that city should convert those back to.
With what our thought are.
Right.
You take care of the pickleball. Next.
Go play nice in the pool.
Just money.
Yeah. And I talked with you just briefly the other day, and I have no idea if this 2B, I don't know what that's going to cost.
So option 2 is roughly 240, more or less, and we have 285 in the budget. So we'll know once we bid it out how much is left over.
Okay.
It won't be a lot.
Okay, because I just, as I mentioned, thought for suggestion, we know it gets real muddy around the doorways, and if they could cut a hole in the center of that fence, if they're not doing anything with the fence. I'm just mentioning it to bring it up, if that's something that would be considered.
That might be something we can do next year. We touch all of them,
Mhm.
or if we just touch one of them, we'll fix one of them.
Okay.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
I just noticed, just something to bring up, at Pleasant View with the pickleball starting there, people are congregating inside the fence, like right next to the court instead of outside the fence. And I think it's because certain times of the day, a little bit of shade right next to the windscreen, so we consider at some point having some kind of umbrellas or something for shade for people, because I think they're inside, and I don't know if that's such a good idea, because they were all right by the door when I went there one day, and I couldn't even get in because there's so many people like standing inside the door. So they're playing pickleball right now.
But I don't think there's a way to see your belongings outside of it, because there's the shade thing there, the windscreen, right? And so I know what you mean, right when you walk in, everybody was saying that they had kids sleeping in the pickleball area too.
But
On the court.
they don't do that at Ferdinand Barg at all. Everybody stays out, so I don't know what to do. Everybody's getting inside.
Yeah,
The-
through the
There are
rack.
there are the picnic tables at the end though, right? So you can sit at that one, but it was blazing sunshine there, so it is a
Right,
shade
that's-
issue.
Yeah.
That's a good point. A lot of the pickleball courts I've seen have like little pavilions next to them, like covered seats, so people can watch people playing. It's becoming more of a spectator sport, so that might come later, or maybe that'll be something that we'll see the more competitive
Excellent. We'll move on to unfinished business. We'll start letter A, update on parks maintenance.
Overall, the last couple of weeks, we've had better success in getting the people out at 8 o'clock at night where we were struggling before. I don't know what's the difference. We did put up some signs at each pavilion saying you must be out by 8 o'clock or risk forfeiting your security deposit, that kind of thing. So maybe that's helping. We're having better success at getting the people out at 8 o'clock. We are still having a problem with certain groups of people letting their kids run wild and just kind of going crazy. We just had an incident days ago where they kind of trashed the bathroom at Vernon Bar. I guess I brought this up in the past. There seems to be a certain group or groups of women there, and they just let their kids go crazy. I don't know. It's possibly a cultural thing where different cultures discipline kids differently, possibly. I don't throw that out there, but brought up this ordinance trying to limit the amount of people, but I don't know if that's the right way to solve this. Anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there again because it seems to be coming up time and time again, and I guess the police were there again. So. Anyways.
Is this a nighttime or daytime?
This was close to closing, but it happens during the day also. I've seen it happen in the day, during the day several times. So I don't know if it's any, but it usually happens at Legend, Vernon Barg, or Franklin. Other than that, we've had a ton of rentals lately. This weekend in the 5 big pavilions, we've had 10 rentals Saturday and Sunday. People are using them. We have our hands full cleaning them up, so we're doing it. Pleasant View, I guess, since the pickleball's kind of started there, that's kind of turned into the 4th big location where people are, I can tell by the amount of garbage that they're going through, and now we're filling up a dumpster just like the other locations, so it's taking a lot of extra. Other than that, 4th of July took some of our time cleaning up the park and mulching the trees and making it look nice. You guys did a good job of that. Anything else?
Thanks, guys.
Was the police were there for that incident that happened? Did they have a police report? Like, was there?
I'm not sure. Did you know? I don't know.
And when you see these like issues, is there any photographic evidence of it? Just to like better clarify like what you mean by the damage that.
Well, like this time, Anne calls me when she closes up the park. She called me and she says the kids are running around, and says there's probably about 10 kids, boys running around, and they filled the urinals with grass clippings. She told me sod, but what it was, it told me later. She said it was a bunch of toweling and then a bunch of grass clippings on top of it. So it must have been a ton of it to look like sod. So she had a problem trying to make sure the urinals were clean. Yeah, weren't. So this is something where I would say a normal parent should be watching their kids and not letting something like that happen. I guess that's what I would say. And it didn't happen either, so.
Well, it sounds like a lot of work hauling grass and everything. I mean, they're really working at trashing the.
Yeah.
You know how kids get one kid gets an idea and then all the other ones follow, and if
You need a
they're
jump.
just left
Do you think it would make any difference, at least at Vernon Bar, they leave both doors open? So if the kids are going in the other side, the parents might not know those kids are sneaking in the other door. Do you think it would make a difference if they kept those doors closed on the other side of the pavilion? What?
You can't lock,
What? Why
You
can't?
mean lock the doors or just close them?
Well,
you can't lock them because
oh, okay. Okay.
But
Yeah, I don't know if it would work if they weren't locked. I just know the doors are open. I always wondered, why are doors open on both sides here?
Personally, I don't think it would help anyways because you watch the whole thing happen. But I've seen that they don't pay attention to the kids. I mean,
Oh, well, if the police came, maybe.
Everything did look really nice for us.
Here.
yeah, several people said that, and Kevin heard it this morning.
Awesome. Thank you. Move to letter B, 2023-2024 budget. Parks Commission request for information on personnel additions, capital outlay fund needs, equipment revolving fund needs, street improvement fund needs, and major capital expenditures to be made with borrowed funds.
Thank you. So included in your packet was a memo regarding the discussion around your recommendations for this year's budget cycle. And so I do want to also share, Ms. Runty wasn't able to be here today, but she did reiterate the importance of the keyless for question. So I want to make sure that that gets said at the top. But at the last meeting, we shared the capital improvement plan and the 2023 budget, and also some information about what this commission's priorities were, what items were funded or otherwise resolved, and then a set of recommendations you had shared with me. So this is the prior year request that you made, Kayla's for having been repeatedly the recommendation of this commission as a top priority, but also including things related to development of park sites, etc. And then the new discussion items of fishing pier at Lake Ernie, Mission Hills wetland restoration, trail maintenance, tennis court maintenance, which we just discussed, Southwest Park design, park directors and staff, park permitting and marketing full-time personnel, software for parks permits, bank shots, all abilities basketball, the discussion around fitness equipment. I have a dollar amount there for one option for that. And one thing we touched on that we've gotten new requests for is printing costs for the park map and possibly for other brochures. So that's something you guys might want to consider making a recommendation about having that included in a departmental budget so that it goes forward in the newsletter, etc. So you requested information about impact fees. It's going to take a little bit more work than I expected to get that updated because of some of the turnover in the department and because of some of the backlog of work that's resulted as that's been happening. But I'm just going to revisit. This is a table from the 2021 Parkland Acquisition Study, which did an analysis of the existing impact fees on hand, helped set goals for the future use of those funds. So the recommendation around this study was that we purchase the Southwest Park and then begin the development of the Trails Network. That work is underway, so I can't tell you exactly how far we got in terms of spending down these funds, but in terms of funds that are expiring, when that report was produced, there was approximately $2.3 million that will be expiring by 2020. So this, of course, needs some updating, but I'm sharing it to just emphasize that there will continue to be impact fees that need to be accounted for and planned for. I owe the commission a copy of your comprehensive outdoor recreation plan again, if that's something you want to see, but it's on this website. But you've used those materials to produce your recommendations in the past. So I guess at this point, barring the fact that the impact fee information won't be available until August, I'm going to pass around a new worksheet. The question that I want to ask the commission is, what items you want to recommend for 2024, and then are there things that could go in a future year? So for example, in 2023, we're going to be doing the tennis item that we just discussed, and then in 2024, revisiting that. One of the requested items for the 2024 budget was this question of personnel, and staff would offer the comment to that we need to do a little bit more homework before we can make a recommendation about how much funding to allocate to that, what the structure of that should look like. So we are doing some work in the background to try to put together some good recommendations for you, but that might be an example of something that could be a future item and not necessarily something you're recommending in 2024. The Southwest Park design, that is impact fee eligible. Is that your priority? Kayla's playground replacement of the floor is not impact fee eligible. Is that your priority, etc.? So we could either take items one by one. Some of the things in red here were things that you had either previously said were less important to the commission or were otherwise not funded. But this is in the ranked order of priorities that you've previously approved. And then you have the new items which haven't been prioritized in any way. So we're wondering if there are things that you'd like to remove.
So there's black, there's red, there's green. What?
Yep, so the green items have been resolved.
Okay.
So for example, we purchased an ice rink this year, so that's no longer a request to purchase another ice rink. I don't know that you want to do that.
You want one in?
And is black not eligible for?
No, so this is a little bit confusing the way that I set this up, but items in red didn't get funded in the capital improvement plan. So items in black were included in the adopted capital improvement plan, the 5-year plan that I shared at our last meeting. Items in red were not. Some of that was based on your recommendation. Some of it was this decision of common council. So, however, I mean, you should be taking your priorities as citizen representatives into account in your recommendation. So, yeah, that's what that means. So the green items have been resolved.
Okay.
The items in black. So, for example, Kayla's playground is in the capital improvement plan for next year, but is not in a currently adopted budget. That makes sense. So,
A reminder for impact fees, you can't spend them on machines,
you can't spend them on people.
trails. Look at that.
Currently, trails are eligible for the greatest percentage as a portion of funding to be paid for by impact fees. So I have a slide about the percentages.
So the dollars, when you say it's resolved, are those dollars then subtracted from the final total, that $4 million?
Yeah, I apologize. I did that. That was the total request that you made in 2020.
Okay, but those, so they haven't been removed from there?
No.
Okay.
Your total request last year was, for this 2023 year, was for $4,193,000.
Okay. All right. And did we use impact fees this year?
There were fees that were applied. Again, the reconciliation of all of that is
Okay.
yet to be completed, and so I can tell you what it looks like. So, but based on my understanding of the available pot of money, we will not have used them up. So,
So I think we should go through line by line, but are we only looking at the ones eligible for impact fees? Is that what we're trying? No?
no. So that is a relevant discussion because when you are making a recommendation about what things to prioritize, impact fees can help like alleviate the cost
Okay.
of something.
Okay.
Because it's a little bit separate from the separate pot of money. And it's in essence a line that's specifically dedicated towards like community development
Okay.
that must be spent.
Okay.
But there's still going to be a general obligation with each item and then the percentage. So
Okay.
you see the 62%. This is actually, I think will probably change in the next update from Rupert Milky, this percent eligible, because they shift around as we start to meet the core. But this is roughly still what's eligible. So again, trails are eligible. You could use 62% of the cost of a project paid for
Okay.
as a production. So, and then the park scales. So the special parks that's the main one that's the discussion of is actually there's the community park, which is the Southwest Park, and then special parks are like dedicated purpose parks, and then the neighborhood parks are sort of medium. Community parks are smaller parks.
Do you want to cover this line by line?
I think it would be helpful
Sure.
to just for the group to go through and say, is this important to still? What does DPW think?
Sure. I think Kayla's playground is something. Trails, snow clearing machine. I know the DPW department would have that. I think it's important. Trails in the park. And
Are we just saying future here, or are we giving a year? Because it says future.
sure, I think both of them should be recommended.
Okay.
That's, somebody disagrees, sure thing.
Mm-hmm.
Water tower site plan.
What is that?
So that's Glenn's new park. That to develop a plan for what it was going to look like when it
What was the percent on that one?
It is actually a mini park.
Neighborhood?
was a mini park.
A mini park?
Mini park?
I think that's a good money.
I can't remember which direction my slides are in. Okay. It's this park.
Oh, okay.
So this map is the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan's recommendation. So it shows existing parks and then also planned parks and their service areas. And so we continue to call it Water Tower Park, but it's yet to be named.
Water Tower Park.
So future?
Said Glenn's Park.
Oh, Glenn's, yeah, they did.
Just saying.
Yeah, it's Glenn's park.
You know, I'd be okay with that.
I would think that sooner or later we should have a site plan. Advise for that.
Next year's
Oh, do you think that's too soon, guys?
When are you going to
For
have the,
DPW for
the
Glenn?
water tower up?
So, the hope is that we will bid out the water tower again. We weren't allowed to award it last time for various reasons. And then ideally, they would start next springtime. And I would imagine about 2 years is what it will take before I want anybody in there walking around, and because it's going to be a big construction site. I don't want people trying to use it as a park while we've got contractors there
Sure.
doing their stuff.
Maybe we look
So 26-ish?
for a plan by 26.
Well,
have it open by 26.
yeah,
Plan in
open by
25,
26. So if you want to
26.
plan it in 24
Sure.
and construction in 25, then people could start using it in 26-ish.
Okay.
So this would just be design.
So design, plan it, 2024, start construction, 2025/2026, and open it for 26.
That'll eat up roughly $120,000, 180.
The big water tower park sign would be eligible for me.
Lynn's Water,
I like
Laurel
that.
Meadows. Baseball grooming machine. I know you guys are in desperate need of one, correct? That is not impact eligible. I think it's something that we should probably budget, make the alderman. I think that ties in the general discussion we have later about determining these.
So next year,
Yeah, I would think.
okay.
The citywide park decorations. I
What's
think
that?
this came up a few years ago where we talked about decorating a park for Christmas with the
Oh,
lights
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
everything.
Over here, they were gonna do the trail.
Yeah.
Then they had that committee, and they were going to take care of it, I thought.
I think they met once or twice in the park.
Oh, really?
I think so. Must have. So,
Oh, I think the civic celebration group like an offshoot of that maybe has taken up the item, but I mean there isn't really any progress on it as far as I'm aware. So
But I would just say then, if we're gonna say, wouldn't somebody need to take ownership of it, or would that be us if we're gonna put aside funds for it?
yeah, I mean if you were making a recommendation, then
I don't think $1,000 doesn't get them very far though. I mean, most people in their house.
Oh.
I think that really is something we should do like a volunteer organization.
I think so.
You know?
Yeah, you
The
would get.
hospital, we have children come in, they do all like, so we can get sponsored.
Yeah,
We energy.
I would think that would be something.
Future, okay.
Yeah.
Lions, very similar.
Okay.
New tennis courts. We've talked about. I don't know if we need ones, but I think we kind of have a plan to try to get some more money. What we have.
okay.
Plan. You would one.
Just do maintenance, focusing, not making new ones.
Just now and future?
That kind of runs into the next one.
Pickleball center.
I never heard of that.
I never-
Northwestern Mutual.
I believe I called it a pickleball palace.
Oh, yeah.
Can be the world's epicenter of.
I would think that might be sure. That's a lot of money to ask.
Especially when we have another developer already.
Yeah, I
Sure.
agree.
Rock is,
Oh, yeah,
oh, did that fall through?
really? Hmm.
The vision for that, through prior discussions, that it would be part of a site plan for new
Oh, Southwest Park.
So it's kind of, it was a separate recommendation, but as you're planning out that park, that is a place for bigger
Right.
activities.
And
So.
that's where we talked about.
Okay.
I did read in the paper that big lots that are closed are becoming pickleball places now, and they're in the news where it said there was an investor that was looking to site walking. So there would be a pickleball emporium and walking.
You fielded inquiries about it and putting private and
Anything in the industrial park?
Not in that area, nearby, but nothing has come to fruition. Definitely. Yeah.
I feel like we have a good offer on that want to
Yeah.
service. They don't have that expectation of small aquarium, you know. Where is the nearest dog park? Runway one down.
Dale said it was pleasant. People were going there.
Closest. The closest.
Well, I mean, besides walking your dog in a park,
Yeah.
but like a closed gated dog park.
At the lake,
We used to go to the one at Runway.
by Warnemont,
Yeah.
there's one.
Private. That was turned out.
A lot of life.
A lot of maintenance. Craft department.
That's supposed to be part of the Southwest someday.
That's part of it. Yeah. I mean, that park's on. I think a bunch of the other stuff. Frisbee golf, the skate park, airplane facility, cricket.
Wrapped in.
Yeah, kind of wrapped in. We'd have to make a decision. I don't think everything. Everybody. You go with Jack. One mentioned briefly, no parking. Advised. A rentable facility there. Restaurant that it's going to be pop up gazebo. Have to have something, some kind of amenity restaurant.
So restrooms in Wendell? I mean, at Beckwourth?
Yeah, I think if you're putting up a
Well, you got a
restrooms and
gazebo
tables
in
and
St.
stuff,
Martin's still. There's
maybe-
still
sure.
restrooms.
Portable toilet there?
Every other weekend.
It's
During
not
St.
as
Martin's
easy
Fair.
to access it is at the
Right.
one you said, is Jack Workman, you've gotta.
Yeah.
So are we still interested in this one or no?
I would say
No interest?
In the gazebo?
And what did we say? Dog amenities? I don't know what that is.
during a dog park, so fencing off.
So the dog amenities were like providing additional tickets and bag.
Oh.
They are
You need a dog park.
No, trails.
Like on the trails and
Well,
stuff, right?
the dog
And there's
park's
one at
on
Ken
there.
Wendell.
They're all
There's one at like 12
Yeah,
Vernon
Scanners
Park.
Road.
Keyless. Woods.
My dog loves.
I do too. So is that 24 or is that, are we not interested in that?
Is that something that you think is beneficial? Do you, I mean, is it utilized or is it just add to your, you know, having to keep it stocked? And
Dog amenities, station. You don't even have.
Oh,
They're not that.
okay.
We see
No
a
interest.
need for research to stop it. We'll just-
Dog park. Future.
Yeah.
Kevin retired. Senior fitness equipment. This and the fitness court kind of tied together in one.
That was that grant, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so under the proposed new items, there's the National Fitness Campaign program, which will do the fitness court that they have their design. It's basically the size of a tennis court. There's an existing one. So this, we've talked about this a few different times. If this is something, so their fitness equipment is impact fee eligible. If we were to receive funding for it, It reduces, basically what you do is you take the total dollar amount and apply the grant, and then that piece would be applicable to whatever remains. So that is something to keep in mind, that it is impact fee eligible. And then this facility, it is not the only option, but it is one that we've been invited to apply for this grant. It's a question of, can we fund a match? So the city would have to provide a match from the city budget. So the total cost could be up to about $170,000, depending on whether we did installation of a concrete slab ourselves, the types of sponsorship opportunities that we're able to obtain, which is in other communities, that is something that has occurred, and there are people we could approach, but not staff to proactively do that. So it's kind of, would assume that it was going to be $170,000 cost because offsetting that. There have been suggestions about how we could approach a fundraising campaign for this. So it meets a need in the corp, and this is one option. So yeah, that's that discussion.
I wonder if we could get any feedback from the rec department or the health department. I know it tied into both the middle school having the expansion off of Franklin Public Schools building,
Right.
and then access at the middle school for something like that fitness pad, or then having it near City Hall where right up the road, and City Hall employees with the ability to classes.
Yep.
Set the example, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
That's what the health department was talking about, right?
Yeah, and planning has had a couple of discussions with the health department about this particular grant option. They're broadly in favor of the type of facility and don't have to comment on a grant, but yeah, that was. There's a demand for that kind of facility, nice, centrally located.
Library.
Yeah, that was one of the sites that was. So there would be a siting discussion. A previous discussion had considered putting something near Northwestern Mutual, which is probably not great. But is it something you want to continue to recommend for the budget? Try to pursue that grant or not? We will continue to be invited as long as Wisconsin communities that's like able to participate in the program, but at some point the funds will expire. So really a question. We could say we want to look at it in the future.
I think it's worth looking. There's money in the also curious medical system. Probably look great for
Insurance.
help add mounted on some of the cost.
If you're gonna do it, it has. That's true. Put up those fitness stations at Lake Ernie. I've never used that I've ever seen.
Yep. So the facility that this is specifically for is this design. So it's grouped activities with like a back wall of basically TRX. Do it in order, and there's actually an app that comes with it. So it explains how to use each. So these are like step boxes. This is the football training thing. I probably know what that's for.
Agility.
Yeah.
It's on there.
Oh, right.
I didn't know that until I.
Right. So core, squat, lunge, agility, bends, and then this is pull and push. There's instructions that are on the equipment, and then there's also an app that provided with this that explains each activity, how to do them in sequence, recommendations about like workouts you can do, and then there's also like a social media aspect to this. So I've had a discussion with the grant about all the different kinds of activities that other communities are doing around these kinds of facilities. So as discussed earlier, like it's very popular in class. It's a public facility, it's open to the public, and it has that app with it, but then like the rec department, health department, organize classes, they're different health campuses. So it's reasonably well thought out. I think I put their full brochure in your last packet. So that should be on the website and take a look as well. But there is eligible for some grant funding. So
this is intended for like senior citizens.
no, it's for all ages. I mean, it's basically just
Almost like a with CrossFit. It's like a CrossFit concept, HIIT workout.
What do they do in the winter? Just there?
And if it's too hot in the summer, they're not going to use it either.
yeah.
So it's
It would be difficult to find a site that was shady, for sure. I know that would be.
After the grant, what is the percentage funding eligible?
So their grant is about $50,000. So depending on the overall cost, and some of this is based on materials, take that off. It's money. We get any sponsorship dollars, then it would be off of that amount. But the impact fee eligibility would depend on the location. So it depends if we put it in Flying Legends Park, that's a neighborhood park. If we put it in Water Tower Park,
So it
That's a
depends
neighborhood.
on what kind of park it goes in.
correct.
So the minimum would be 40%.
Or the maximum.
Minimum.
Correct.
Move on to the skate park, Frisbee golf course, model airport, tied into one feature. Idea of our Southwest Park,
And
tennis court repair here.
One thing I will comment on here is that there's a couple items that were logically you're deferring to the Southwest Park. So I think what I'd like to do is start kind of like a catch-all file for that for you guys. So if you're thinking of other ideas, please send them to me. I'll start to capture that future site plan because this is based on where we are with MPUs. We'll probably want to start working on that. So
Are we going to put like an amphitheater out there?
I would have to look at the list of amenities that are recommended for it because some of the impact fees assessed on the current corp's recommendations, but there is like definitely a building included, public restrooms, that kind of sports facilities. Pickleball isn't in the corp at all, but there's rackets. So it's one of the tricky things with the corp is that it is sometimes overly specific. So when it comes to the site plan, there's kind of a moving piece here of like might write the court before we get to the site plan, but I want to capture your thoughts about what can go in there and what the community. Well, it is and is not a big piece. So yeah.
Did you want to look at the projects?
Yeah, so these were all, the commission had a number of suggestions around new ideas, things that we could include in sets of recommendations. So I'd like to talk that through because Southwest Park design is on here, and if we can skip ahead to that one.
Sure.
I do think that it's appropriate to start working at a staff level, but to be thinking more in the future so that we can work through the more immediate.
Where is that? I'm.
Yeah, in the second
middle.
group in the middle.
Oh, okay. So you said future?
Like
Yeah.
2025.
There are things that we can do to support that discussion as we move towards it, but it would be preferred to do. You guys already resolved this.
Fitness equipment also, right?
Yep.
Also,
So the park permitting, this is also on your agenda after this, but we're in the process of building out a scope to request quotes from 3 vendors. So it's 2 vendors for sure, maybe 3. So we will have some recommendations around that. Hopefully in August. Right now I don't have like a known cost for that, but staff, especially due to some of the issues that we're working through as a commission, is trying to work towards our budget. So for us, it would be a big help to start to work through some of the policies you guys are working to just stop having that conversation. So. Right now, I don't have a cost.
So we're looking at fishing pier, fishing pier.
No,
nothing.
not for impact fees. It doesn't include the possibility of doing it.
Sure.
But it wouldn't be.
Sure. Maybe like 2025. Fishing.
There's a bigger lake there than there is at Ernie, and that would be a much better place to put it here for fishing. Because there's actually fish there, but it's so difficult to get to. Got like 30 feet of cattails all around it. And the land coming down from the road, Church Street, going into that area, that was filled up many, many years ago with factory ash.
Oh wow.
And there were these big clinkers thrown in there. It was all marsh and peat, and they sunk, and so there's all potholes in there, and it's very difficult to walk through.
Oh, I'm trying to find my map. So we're talking about the one right off the Church Street.
Church Street and Monastery.
Right, this read now that I'm looking at it. Roughly over here. One of the reasons that I would have to do a little bit more research, frankly, but I do not believe that project would be FE eligible. However, a wetland restoration project is eligible for other types of funding if you thought that would be a useful
And what would that be?
There are funds from the Milwaukee Metropolitan Village District to do the wetland restoration.
Like putting walkways in, or what?
No, it would be like plants restoring the wetland itself. So,
Really need to be restored. It's all wetland.
so this is more a question of like access.
It's that road, or is the access point to the city, or is that a private road?
I am not.
A while back, the city tried to put a walkway in from Church Street along the top of the property and joining into going down to the monastery. I mean, not the city, the park commission, or I was even on it. And people up on the hill complained so much about it that the budget was dropped, and it was really nothing more than a sidewalk up there. It wasn't really going into that land at all. And I don't know, almost impossible to go in there without having a boardwalk.
Still not sure.
Church Street,
I know where Church Street is.
across from Chapel Hill Drive, where Chapel Hill Drive comes to Church Street, the old in there, drops down into the wetlands. Don't know, you go well on the-
Yeah, let me go to.
Can you do a satellite?
Yep, that's what I'm gonna do. Oh, this way. Okay.
Oh. There's a sidewalk that goes to it?
No, they tried to put a sidewalk through from Church Street to Monastery, and the people in that cul-de-sac complained, and so they couldn't.
Oh.
There's a pond in there, and you can't even see it's surrounded so much by cattails that it's hard to access it. And that square above it, that is sort of a rectangle, go just up, no, not that far.
Angle.
Right
You're
to the-
right.
To the right a little bit,
Right and up.
Up
right
there.
there.
Sorry.
I don't know, is that city property?
Yes.
That's all part of that area.
This isn't actually, so, okay, I was a little confused about what we were talking about. This is technically not, this area isn't in the corpus area either. So I think this was meant to be like conservation land. And Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong about that, but yeah, so there are no plans at present.
Where the pond is, neither the
Right. But that, I mean, that is a question for the commission to certainly talk about is the city is going to be taking on more conservation land.
The city owns it, but it's not part.
Correct. So what is the goal with conservation land like this? There's other wetland areas under their stewardship as they weren't useful for development forever. So a lot of those lands are wetlands, so.
Who owns the property to the north? Is that the monastery?
Yeah.
Looks like a pathway going. Yeah.
There's definitely a street. That what's back
It
there?
used to be a really deep river. That was farmland. And it went through to the monastery, joined up to that river that runs across the avenue. They kind of plugged up most of it when they built the subdivision and when they built the new monastery there. Way back there, years ago, there was supposedly the historical society said there was a mill site,
Well, and there's this whole
and that's where it ran into that.
Okay.
Need thrust. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's Monastery Lake.
But there's,
Where it eventually ended up as a golf course. Monastery Lake, separate, all spring fed.
yeah, and this is privately owned, so, I think I would suggest, for the purposes of this discussion, to maybe consider that as a future amenity, but have a policy discussion about conservation. Right now, it's not considered a park. So what kinds of amenities, what kinds of programming you would do there?
I always thought it was because I was listed.
I think it's in the
We do treat it.
Yep, it's there.
It's
Yeah, both of those on Church.
I do not remember. Wetland.
We talked about how we mow it. You know, there's
Okay, so I misspoke. This is eligible. This is a special park. So, as a wetland. What would the commission like to do?
A little proud of it. Site.
Okay.
Some eyes on it.
Maybe I'll take
potholes.
Are you good?
Trying to see what this is some bad traffic on. Others think around your trail maintenance, or we just look at asphalt repairs that are needed on the trails. I would think that would be budget.
Is there a concern about that? Are you guys looking for a recommendation? So this was a suggestion. This group is a suggestion of commission. All of these items are things the commission wanted to recommend. Do you guys, would it be helpful to have a recommendation about trail maintenance or?
growing.
We'll keep that in there. Tennis court maintenance, yes. Southwest park design, talked about future, but 5. Park director and staff, future discussion. Budget. Park permit and marketing full time. We've talked about trying to add that another body support staff. Help out. Next.
So this, I think, can be potentially wrapped into the discussion around software and be multiple departments that are trained across it, but I'm not sure where we'll end up with a recommendation.
Sure.
So I would defer to Glenn. Wasn't able to join about this one, but I do think it's a good idea. So
the city would be using it also then as a whole for their calendars and stuff?
that is something we're looking at.
Okay.
Right now, we don't have a central piece of software for like internal facilities here. The library has their booking software. So it is one thing that is offered on the platform. I'm hoping I'll be able to have more information about all of that at the next meeting. Like I said, we're working through.
We're looking at the bank shops. Probably
wasn't that lady gonna look into grants for?
She was, and she's going back to. I haven't seen her.
Didn't you contact her, Marion?
I did, and she is looking at grants, but a chance to flesh out what that could look like. So it's kind of a question of.
So just leave it for future when she comes back?
But at this point, the city hasn't really, I mean, the sponsorship for the music celebration, but we also haven't really engaged in that kind of supplementary funding for city projects. So I'm glad the finance director is a conversation that we need to have, like what is that going to look like as we start to do more of that. I mean, there are grants that are government grants that we've worked with, but for example, the National Fitness, that's a private fund. So what does that look like? And the final item is printing of the parks map. The estimate here is from the city administrator's office. They thought that it would cost about $1,000 to include a full color printed map in the newsletter.
I think that's
So,
24?
But somebody else said last week to put full maps at each of the parks in those.
like information kiosks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that would be the cost for the newsletter. You could certainly recommend additional funding for other printing of it, and we've been getting requests for that, which I've been telling people.
Well, maybe the newsletter one sufficient to
Yeah.
put in one of those stations.
Yeah, I think so.
It'll be the 8.5 by 8.5 by 11 by which is pretty good size.
Yeah.
And you can blow it up even bigger.
Yep. So you could consider recommending a little bit more than that.
sure, let's double it. It's government money at the end of the day.
Yeah, we can't get a sponsor. We can do it on two.
We could if we tried.
What I'm saying.
So it's not on the agenda this evening, but one of the discussions that with the new plan manager is bringing forward a lot of ways to use first skills better, and kind of use the commission's time better as well. And the thought process is maybe going forward as we're starting to make some processes more efficient, so you're not weighing in on it on certain work permits, that kind of thing, that we spend more time on setting policy, having subcommittees work on partnerships, those kinds of things. So it's not part of the discussion this evening, but I do want to have that conversation because staff, I mean, at present we don't have the resources to really actively pursue some of the things you guys could. So I'm gonna ask that we wait till we can put that on an agenda to have a bigger conversation. But I do agree, we can definitely. Okay, so I have a list. Are there anything here that you want to call out as a particular priority through a motion? Or do you want me to kind of consolidate this information and come back with at your next meeting when we have impact fees and there's a prioritized list that you discussed?
When is the information?
We need to be making recommendations in August. Is that correct? Yep.
Would we have time?
Their next meeting is August 4th. So, okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
So for next month, think about priorities. I just feel like, we
It's a big list.
walked all the way through Toys R Us and we want everything. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end, you find out you only got $20 to spend.
Sorry, bring grandparents. Oh, look. No, I get it. It's okay. We'll whittle it down to a few.
Okay, what I will do is consolidate this list. So, I mean, as we've discussed, you kind of deleted a few things and made some recommendations about timing. Send it out to the group, and then individually, if you have additional feedback or want to kind of pass it along, that I think this should be a priority. Again, Kayla's Playground 4 has been this priority for a number of years. Not happening, but that discussion, I think, Ms. Runty would like to for it as well, but like,
You know, with the city newsletter, who does that actually? Is the clerk's
the
office?
layout, the city administrator.
Have they ever thought of like getting quotes from different printers and stuff like that? Because
I'm
I
not
do
familiar
this
with the
all the
process.
time for other cities, and I'm pretty sure I can save the money. I know they were getting it printed at the House of Corrections for a while, but I'm not sure if they're doing that anymore. Because they don't do that anymore, because I used to work with them also.
I'm not
But,
sure why. Yeah. I think they sent us.
Because
I'm not
I'm
involved.
pretty sure, like, I work with other printers and they're like web presses and stuff, like the rec department used to get it printed at American Litho, and they're pretty reasonable with their costs. They do like all the cities in around, and you can get 4 color probably for what they're getting, the 1 color, 2 color, and stuff like that for. Is that someone I can talk to with that? Like, could I have them come to you and do their little promo on that or something?
I'm not following.
Like printing like the city newsletter and including making it better. Because if you notice, I don't know if you've been lived here a long time, it's like the same brochure. Like,
Right.
it's exactly the same thing. I've been saving them, and I'm like, I can lay that out in like 2 seconds. It's like,
It's not the purview of this commission. I'm certainly happy to make the connection
right.
outside of the meeting.
yeah, I would like to do that with somebody.
Okay.
Just because I think it could be better and maybe for less even.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that could save some money. Like when I see that $1,000 or whatever for what we're doing, I know what that would cost if I added it to the other one and stuff like that. It would
Okay.
be less.
I will. We'll chat about it after.
Okay.
Move to letter C, park amenities donation policy and parks marketing materials, including maps, pamphlets, etc.
That is still with the clerk's office.
I did make the corrections. I just had some issues this month and stuff. So I'm still working on it. I made the corrections. I just need to give you the list of if you want to take some photos and stuff. I've been just swamped this month with some issues that I've been working on. Yeah. So
Corrections to what?
to this little booklet thing to rent and stuff. All
Oh,
policies and
okay.
stuff like that. So. So there's things that I've done. Can I send them to you and
Please
then
do. Yeah.
and then can you just send them to everybody and we can kind of go over those and so you can make notes? I know I handed out some along the way, but I'm just sitting on them. We have them.
I think what would be good, so part of what you're currently producing will be an excellent supplement to whatever the permanent software selection ends up being. And so I think it would be helpful to, if you want to send me stuff and then we'll sit down with the clerk's office as we're working on the permitting so they can how it all fits together.
Goes together, right?
Yeah, and then once they've had a chance to kind of think about it, we can sit down and talk about it because we know that if that permitting software is funded and we are able to adopt it, then there will need to be significant changes to some portions of the website that can
It's like how they can register and how they.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been through all this stuff before, so okay. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's like for next year, like to have it ready, all set to go for next year. That would be really awesome.
Really
Because we can do that.
I mean, we're making progress.
Yes, yes.
So, give myself a note though to follow up.
No, because we met that time. It was awesome that we met and stuff like that. So I kind of know where you guys are looking for.
We'll go to letter D, Little League and/or Adult Recreation League, Youth League, community reservations of sports facilities for baseball and pickleball.
You had your policy in the packet last month, and I apologize that I don't have an update of that. So if the commission has a discussion you want to have, but I don't.
I kind of did those too. So, did you want me just to send you everything and then
That would be
everybody
awesome.
can look at it and then at least we have something to look at and have
Yes,
a topic
sure.
and to go over it and stuff like that. So I've done quite a bit of that. And if you don't like it, you can change it. It's all changeable at the time.
It's to the draft policies.
Right. Don't you think? Like,
Oh, yeah, we need to look
Like,
at it, and again,
you know,
if
like
the
I know you
software
did
comes.
that and stuff and yeah.
If we combine, yeah.
And you have to be pretty precise on stuff, wordage and stuff, because you're putting it out there now. So I will send it to you, and then you can forward
Yep.
it, and I'll put it in like a folder or something. You can,
Okay.
okay.
Thank
Are
you.
they're, it sounds like they're pretty big. Yep.
I'll make them in just the PDFs, and they'll be low resolution, not like the map was. The map was for the map was for printing, and I could have made you a lower resolution.
Just as an FYI to the whole commission, file sizes over 10K units of data is, I don't always receive it. So if the attachment is too large, sometimes it gets stuck.
So I'll make them low res and I'll just title them what they are.
Cool.
So, okay. Just what I was thinking. So you guys can change all you want.
We'll go to letter E, draft ordinance to add municipal code section 18348D, prohibit use of city park pavilions without proper authorization.
Apologize, I meant to get this to my department to put in the packet. Is it in the packet?
You had some stuff last.
Right. So I took this to Common Council, got their comments on it, and then we talked about it here. I believe the thought was is that I should say the direction from Common Council was restrict the use of city pavilions with no restrictions to party size. Oh, sorry. Thought I had it written in there. Sorry. So they wanted to restrict to any party size. You know, basically, didn't matter just 1, 2, 5 people, whatever. They said any party should not be allowed. Hearing that and hearing what some of your concerns have been as far as, we're not really out to pick on the family that sits down and, just to get out of the shade kind of thing. So what I did was I thought a good compromise would be what you see there in bold at the bottom. No gathering involving food or party materials are allowed in park pavilions located in Franklin Woods, Lion Legs, and so forth, unless such an event is reserved through the city process. So therefore, if you have a group who just wants to sit down, get out of the shade, probably even a water bottle is not a big deal, but it's the folks that are actually showing up with the pizza boxes and the party confetti, those kinds of things, that would, I think, strike the balance between what some of the desires I heard from this committee and what Common Council told us. So again, you're not trying to tell somebody, sorry, you got to get out just because you're sitting there. Even if you fed your kid crackers or something like that, not a big deal. But it's with people that show up with the party stuff, with the food and the party. So one thing Common Council did ask us to do is to make sure we put up a sign. So I have below that, once adopted, staff will post signs at each pavilion that states, notice, please contact the city clerk's office at phone number to make reservations. Use of this pavilion without reservation is prohibited per Franklin Municipal Code. So such and such fines outlined in section may be imposed for each violation. Violations may be reported to Franklin Police Department, not emergency at. So that way, knowing that in the future people can reserve things online, but we'll have a place there for people to put their little, that I've got it reserved, so I'm okay here legally, if you will. But for the small groups, you know, if you want to meet your friends or whatever, just to sit down, as long as you're not having, you know, a brunch or something out there, this would qualify. It's basically, you know, a cop would come by and say, no big deal. So they did understand and appreciate the fact that we're not trying to be mean to everyone, but they did, some of the comments that we did here was, you know, we do want to keep the pavilions nice because people do rent it and they pay good money for it. So why allow people who aren't renting it mess it up, if you will? So I think this strikes a balance, or at least that's my suggestion. This is in draft form. Depending on what you say here tonight, I'll finalize this and it'll go on the next common council.
In your first background, you just want to update on the 5th line. It says no rent, not rent. And is this going back to council, or is this
So it has to go to, so we went to common council for their opinions.
the first time? Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's coming back to you, and is this amiable to you? Of course, common council could change their mind when it goes back, but
Sure.
it still has to go back for the actual ordinance that we would.
You need a motion for this?
Or more discussion, but yeah.
Anybody have thoughts?
And so just to show you how it fits in, there in the middle of the analysis, this is what's in the code right now. So A, basically all parks are open from, you know, dawn to dusk. B, no sales. C, rules and regulations are basically through you. So this would be the fourth thing on that list.
I think it's a balance, but I still, you know, somebody might go over there with a donut and a cup of coffee and sit under there. I would hope that they wouldn't.
By the time
But
the
I-
case shows up, the donut would be gone.
Yeah, and I do like the party materials added because it's like they're planning an event and.
Anybody?
It kind of occurred to me as I was writing it, you know, the direction was no party of any size. I realized the English language is a little funny. You know, party to your table's ready, or you know, party like it's 1999 kind of. This I think strikes. It allows people to show up as a party of 2 or a party of 8.
Sure.
But it's not until you make it a party of 1999 where you get in trouble.
But drink is okay.
Yeah, you know, I thought about adding drink, you know, water bottles, as long as you're not, you know, obviously if you got 30 water bottles, you know, they leave around, but obviously the kegger probably could be considered as a party material.
There's no further discussion.
We're voting on it? I'll make a motion to approve that with the highlighted bolded area.
Is there a second?
Guess
All in
I'll-
favor? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? 2 noes?
You have proposed alternate.
I think that the top portion, I mean, we just got this now, so I think that was a logical addition to say party. I just feel like we already have an ordinance that would be able to be used for the issue that we wanting to draft this for damage to the village. Of it, and I feel we have city ordinance that protects you. I don't think we should make it more difficult for Franklin to utilize city park out there. And what I've seen when I went to a party just recently, we had keys to the access areas was what they were paying for, and the privilege of saying we have this area reserved for that. But if it's open and free, I'd like to see city utilized without this kind of concern of cops gonna come and roll by and see if I'm okay to be sitting here.
So I don't believe it's the damages. I mean, obviously we don't like damage happening in the parks. You know, we deal with that on a daily basis, weekly basis, several times a week basis. That you're right. I think, I mean, if we can catch someone damaging something, we have the tools now to make that happen. It's the messes. And it's, the police can't, you know, they show up, okay, you're making a mess, but are you going to leave a mess? Or are you not? And we can't, you know, expect the policeman to sit there and watch the, you know, stay for the next hour, hour and a half till they leave is probably unrealistic. And then if you do show up and the party's gone, they left a mess, now you don't know who it was.
So maybe we could just say party materials instead of.
Well, it's
Well, if they leave
The
at
pizza
any
boxes
time,
and-
they're
yeah.
gone anytime. Like,
you know,
for anybody, any time of the day, if they're gone, they're gone. What are you gonna do about it? Because they really can't do anything to you.
so if I'm there with, you know, having a big pizza party, yeah, I got, you know, several pizza boxes and we're there having a party per se. If I don't have a reserve, that would be, police right then could tell me right then if I don't have a permit. And it's obviously got food and beverages, those kinds of things. You know, I would get cited or scolded or whatever, clean up and leave kind of thing is probably what would happen. It's the if I'm just having my, you know, group of kids sit down and, because, you know, it's in the shade, I'm talking to them or whatever, that's perfectly okay the way it's written. And again, it's really just a message. We're, you know, we do appreciate the fact that damaged things we do have, you know, if you damaged it, we show up and pretty obvious that you damaged it. That's something that they could enforce right now.
Past the point of discussion. So is
I'm
it
sorry.
still appropriate to talk about, or because I could say the line of demarcation for the pavilion is such that I would just tell my party goers, well, let's go into the grass, and then we're fine. And I think that the damage would still occur because the bathrooms that are getting damaged and the rubbish is accumulating. I could still have my party in the grass area, just my friends bring their, you know, camp chairs, and it'll move it out. So we'll have, you know, there's how are you going to mark that? You know, oh, you can't have a party under the pavilion.
So to be fair, my staff did suggest that, but my pushback was we don't have a mechanism to rent the grass. You know, there's no mechanism that you can go to the clerk's office and said, I'd like to rent the front lawn of such and such park. That doesn't.
Right. So when I went to a party and we had Ken Wendell and we had the reserved area, we weren't able to go and tell people you can't go on the playground, right? Because we didn't have privilege in that area. But my friend paid for the use of the fridge and the heat stuff inside. So if somebody was like, I want to cool off in the air conditioning, we had the ability because she was there to say, I'm sorry, this is a private event in here. So I feel like it's an ordinance that it's redundant, and then there's so much gray area to it. That's why I agree with it. And I think that people, I even heard somebody say to me, we were talking about the courts while we were at this private function. They were like, it's a city park, we can do courts. Yeah. And so I would assume that folks who come up with party materials, they grass. And so then it becomes, you know, an ordinance that is unenforceable. It's like such a gray policy to me. And that's why I voted the way
Milwaukee County have?
No, and it's,
And the way we do it with our property at the is we put it, lock up the tables. Out, but that's a manpower thing. It's never
No.
to move the table. In fact, when I was at Pleasant, I even commented on how nice it was that the people were outside of the enclosed area, and then if I want to get that enclosed area, I would have to go and pay that. So until you're able to enclose off the total area that you want to preserve, I don't feel like the bathrooms, the trash, and the use and the running around, of unruly children is going to be remedied by a policy. But I think we went 3-2, so I think
But
it went.
Can I take my vote back?
I take my second back too.
Just hearing about, I have to agree, that is not going to take care of the bathroom issues. And
The
if
bathrooms
they're
are
not
still
enclosed, you really, it's going to be hard to enforce.
yes, sir.
Let's keep in mind, the main reason we're having this is when they trash the park. When we go over there and we find all this food, time and hopefully we have the time for our rentals, we know what, people, these people come in and do this. We don't have a budget. They have constant. I've never said that this is going to end the ban. But what we're going for is all the food. All of this. It can be 2 people, it can be 50. It's the food problem. That's and all one of especially that's why
And have they talked to those people up there at Vernon Bar?
Can't do nothing.
But can't you for littering, they're,
How you can't? They say, "Oh, we'll pick it up," and
well, then why don't they get cameras? I'm just saying,
That's not gonna do it neither, cameras.
we're just trying to give the PD something to work with.
Then I-
got an issue. Now,
what about if, I would prefer then, and I know they said you didn't like that before, but say if you've got 10 or more people. I don't know if it's the numbers. And I know anybody can, but 10 people are going to make a bigger mess than 3 or 4 people sitting at a table.
but keep in mind, this is officer's discretion. You go there and there's
No, but I'm saying for the purpose of this, if you could say no gathering without a permit of groups more than maybe 8 people,
So I would suggest to you, that's what you asked the common council to give you feedback on. Feedback was parties of any size.
parties of any size.
That was your question last time we talked about it. You wanted to go to common council.
Catching the vibe that
And you can table it tonight if you want to think about it.
let's table it. We'll move to letter F, which we already have all the information on. So I guess we'll skip that unless there's something else.
I will have more information for you at the next meeting.
Excellent. The next meeting is August 14th. So
Can we talk about trails then, on
Yeah.
the agenda?
Anyone in particular?
No.
we also look at the conservancy areas. We want that in the park. Thank you. We'll see everybody in August.
Conservancy.